Today's brain candy is about the children of the Magenta line and whether we will all become children of the Magenta line or whether we won't. This is another one of those ones where I'm going to apply some different history and I'm going to talk a little bit about how it applies today in the age of AI. Well, back in 1997, there was an American Airlines pilot, Captain Warren Vanderberg, and he told a room full of pilots that they were no longer flying. They had stopped flying. They were now children of the Magenta line. Now, where this comes from is the Magenta line was the machine's course for the airplane on the automatic flying. So as far as the flight director path and how it would tell you to be able to go, the autopilots, it would show up as a Magenta line. And so it became sort of this growing thing. They'd become superb at following that about as long as things were going, allowing it to go, being able to follow and do what the machine said. However, one of the truisms that they learned is that their hands don't stay smart on their own, right? You have to actually actively do different things in order to be able to keep those skills fresh. And because that automation loop had started to take over, it was not being reinforced anymore. So nothing had broken per se, but because the automation was doing the work, their hands weren't doing the work. Every one of those pilots could still fly. When they tested anywhere and periodically they could fly, they would do a good job in good weather and in other places. But when things would go poor, those automatic kick reactions weren't there. They weren't what they wanted them to actually be. Well, it wasn't too much longer later that the FAA said, you know what, you're right. And what we need to actually do about this is pilots need to fly more. And so a safety regulator tasked with regulating one of the highest safety important jobs in the world said, you know what, we're going to make it harder. We're going to make this job harder. And so they purposefully removed different aspects of automation. They made it so that you had to be, from a safety and criticality point of view, you had to be in charge a certain percentage of the time. There's a number of different things all within the scheme of how they rolled this piece out to make sure that freshness stayed there, that flight handling operators, etc., had the actual manual flight responses that they needed to be able to maintain the safety and the capabilities to be able to keep flights going. Well, we are in the world of knowledge work, and that's where AI is aiming. And there is no FAA for knowledge work. There's no edict about to come out to say, hey, this is what we have to do to be safe. The last brain candy, I talked about friction, and I want to be more precise than just saying friction. And the reason why I want to be more precise about the friction is it's not just the friction by itself. It's very easy, and I said this in the last one, that if you think about friction, well, we should just put those tedious jobs back and we'll let the younger generation or whoever are starting up be able to pick those things up, and then we have problem solved. We'll get some drudgery back, but it's okay. It'll be better for the long run. But that's not really what I intend out of there. Um, all of the other observations still very much the case. I do what I believe around layoffs and how it's being approached. The first rung slowly fading, and now people are being hired mid range, not in the at the beginning. I think all those things are still very much true. The piece that I would tell you is friction is not just at the start. It goes all the way throughout. All through your career, friction is part of what makes you continue to be able to learn. It's doing things that are worth doing and being able to get it wrong sometimes. That novelness of that insight that hits is part of what enables our brain to be able to learn and to pick stuff up and retain it. Well, this comes back to something that I've hammered on in multiple different episodes, and it is the loop, right? So it is all the things inside of the reinforcement loop. It is that same reinforcement loop of intention and action, and signal and learning and adaptation and intention and action and on it goes, right? So it's what are you trying to do? What is it going to take to be able to do that? And then the signal around what actually comes back, how is it actually getting approached, what the pieces are going to be, learning from what it is that you get as a response, and then adapting to be able to do that next one. And I've talked about it as an AI piece. I've talked about it how it is an AI native organization trait, and one of the important ones that we need to start instilling all over the place in order to be able to scale. It's also literally the mechanism that has made the model smart. I've got an episode around that. But I've got some other news. It is also what made us smart. In the machines, it took a billion cranks of the wheel. We've got our own set of cranks that we're continuing to turn. So that wheel, that same set of experiences, that same set of accumulation of knowledge over time, do, see, grade, do, see, grade, all of that is part of what makes us able to continue to learn and to be able to do more and keeps you capable of doing a number of those different things. So if you think about this from I'm a big fan of normal distribution curves and how these different pieces work, and they're an explanation for many, many different things. So if you think about this on that far side, that is a normal distribution curve. On day one, everything looks equally plausible. It's all the way throughout there, and you start to watch and see what happens. And then over time, your distribution curve shrinks and you know what normal and what you should be expecting actually is. Your bounds start to come in until you become 15 years in. You're like, I got this. I know what good is. I know the difference between good, mediocre, and what the heck is that thing. And so your priors get kind of beaten into you based upon your career over time. You went every time you screwed up, every time something didn't work, every time you delivered something, and then they were like, "That's not what I asked for at all." Okay, you learn, and you adapt your rules, you adapt what good looks like, and continue to keep things sharp in any job, any field, not just technical. All of the different knowledge work follows this graph. So, so the loop didn't break. It just changed owners. As the AI is starting to roll out, the loop is starting to shift. That's what the rest of this is about. So all five arcs still run, still the same thing. When you're doing work with an AI, it's still taking that intention, it's still running the action, it's getting the signal, it's learning and it's adapting, it's getting better as time goes on. I've talked about how memory gets stored and where the weights go. Those are all the things that uh, create that differentiation based upon the signal. And then it adapts and it learns and it gets better. And it may actually get better at doing your reports every time that you run it because you give a little bit more preference, a little bit more stuff goes into the memory, and it continues on and on and on it goes. Well, there's a problem with this though, in that all of that is inside the model and none of it's hitting the human. So what ends up happening is as a human, your signal is frozen. Your output goes up. You're able to generate more of those reports. The AI is assisting. It's moving those things forward. It's going quick. Nobody measures what happens when it all stays flat. It's just not how you operate a business. And so with that freeze, your model for what looks good, where it should go, what to do next, how to learn more starts to get out of date. So when you think about an expert, the an expert's job is not to know absolutely everything or have all of the facts gathered. It is to know this is not right and we need to do something about it. It's a well-tuned definition of what's wrong, what's good. And part of what allows you to be able to get that is surprise. The novel experience is what connects those neurons inside of your brain to be able to say, "Hey, I have not seen this path before. This is something that I could that could be valuable. I could use this again in the future, whether it's building a report, building some code, building a spreadsheet, whatever it is that you're doing." And if you're not the one who's creating it, you can't grade it. It isn't going to go through. You're not going to get hit by the surprise. AI is really good. It is trained to be good at giving you something that is not surprising. It may be novel, it may be interesting, it may be very well put together, but it could be horribly wrong. And you won't know because you've not gone through that same learning experience. You don't know what good looks like anymore. It's just gonna and it's gonna take time. as all of these different pieces go through. One lack of surprise at a time is just going to keep that normal distribution curve normal. So the net result of that may actually be an organization that continues to accelerate, value compounds, but for a limited period of time. So, like 4 years or so, you find out that it's ready for somebody to take over. There's a new piece that to be able to do this next wave, a new innovation that needs to happen, but no one actually has the skill, the expertise, the depth, and the memory to be able to make that call. You're really good at where you were. You're optimized for where you were, but you haven't moved forward to where you need to be. And so this principle is merciless. You have to continue to be able to adapt and to continue to go forward. So even if that P&L looks great for a small period of time, it is not what you want from a long-term compounding capability point of view. And so what? So what do we do about it? That's great, Chuck. You've laid out a wonderful story here, made us all depressed. All right, so that's the explanation. The reality that is that we just have to find ways to reclaim pieces of that work. We got to reclaim ways to grab that signal for the signal to actually hit, the surprise to hit, the innovation, that the friction of learning, and the difficulty of the task to be able to develop those different skills, right? An AI has never met a fifth draft, sixth draft, 12th draft, whatever, that it didn't like. It will happily continue to turn and turn and turn and turn, even when you are long since done. You gotta be able to have ways to be able to cut that off. You can get an AI to explain it a specificity that you can't comprehend anymore. Right? It's just okay. Baffle if you can't wow them with knowledge, baffle them with bullshit. This is the case of that, right? So many words, I don't have time to be able to actually grok half of them. That's a problem, right? So it'll do all those things, but only if you tell it to do those things. And so there is a way around it. There is a way where you can take back some of that knowledge, where as a company, it is the company's responsibility to start to take back some of that knowledge. So my advice here, and I know the current set of models, they're getting smarter and smarter and smarter, and they're getting really good at interpreting your monkey grunts, my monkey grunts, in the form of like a 3 sentence thing into something that's amazing and very close to what you were looking to be able to do. But I would encourage you on stuff that matters. I know that's great. You want to find something out, find out what happened on a news thing, or you're looking for some quick fact lookups or some checks, or a well-defined agentic path, or something along those lines. Fire it off, let it go. But when you're doing things that matter, that are going to matter to the business, not just now, but in the long run, then you need to take the time to specify it. I am a big fan of using plan mode. You run the plan through. You actually have to read the plan. You can't just say, build me a plan, and then go, yeah, that looks right. That's a lot of words. You have to actually read it. You have to attack it. Use adversarial methods. You can actually have the AIs go back and forth, but don't just have the AIs go back and forth and do an adversarial method. Make it explain to you why it made the changes that it did, what the learnings actually were. They're very good at that, both in terms of being able to pass it back and forth, seeing what the different things are that are wrong, recognizing what's wrong, even from the same model, different instance. They're very good at recognizing and effectively picking on one another. You're along for the ride. Don't be along for the ride. Be along for the learning. Make it explain it to you. Make it so that you understand it, and then take that forward. This is one of the things that I see, and I want to continue to dog on a bone this particular one. You have to get in the tools. You got to understand the tools. Executives that are out there, you got to get your hands dirty. You got to understand how those tools are working, or you are managing using old models, a new way of doing things. Your business processes will be wrong in your head, and you will not understand what reality can be and how to be able to do it, especially as you start to go forward and you really need to blow up some of those historical processes. So this is not to say protect the old work. I want to be very clear. We don't want to protect the old work. It's gone. It's going away. I would, let's say, good riddance, but it's harder to say than to do, or easier to say than to do. But what we can do is we can redesign the process. We can redesign from the customer back to why we do these different things. We do them because, and here's the output and the value that it's going to create. We redefine that. And then as part of the process that we design to replace the old process, we make defense part of that strategy, part of the delivery of that work. We make sure that we understand what the different steps actually are, and we make sure that humans can judge where they need to judge and also float back and forth when they need to float back and forth to be able to cover the correct things at the correct time in the correct way. Change in process, really hard. I don't underestimate it. It involves humans. Humans like a path. We like to continue to go. But these are going to be some of the hard things that we do have to do. And it's not sufficient just to say, okay, we're going to do this for a one-time thing, right? I talked about the Chicago law that's first year, no computers, no AI usage for a period of time. That's great. That helps you to get there, but you got to keep it fresh too. You got to keep it going. So rotate it. What steps do you do by hand? What steps do you let the AI do? What do you have it take care of for you? Different, and this is just an example of where some of those different pieces might be, some of the different tasks that you might have inside of a workflow. You go, all right, I'm framing the thing, we're gathering information, there's a draft, there's a review, a reconciliation across the drafts, I check it for formats, I check it for facts, I make sure that the right things are there, and then I own what the outcome is going to be. Don't just be the person who frames the question, owns the outcome and responsibility, but doesn't know how it works in the middle. Make sure that you're grabbing some of those just periodically. Even if you're not doing it all the time, do it often enough that you know what's going on, you know the internals, and you can drive it forward as time goes on. Handle it in good weather so that you can drive in bad weather or fly in bad weather. Well, I've talked about these different ones for a little bit, and I don't want to be the guy who is pushing a cat poster. Curiosity, courage, grit, creativity, and learning. But I do really think the successful organization of the future is going to be the one who internalizes this and learns to keep learning. You got to have that curiosity, and not just because you want to be curious, but because you want to know, like, why is this thing going on? If you have that, you're going to want to unpack some of these different pieces. You have to have the courage. This is courage from an ownership point of view, owning the actions, owning the change. Take your own swings, know that your name's going to be on it. That takes courage. Whether you're using AI, whether you're doing regular development, whether you're doing regular actions, doesn't matter. Grit is everybody else gave up. You're still going. Right? You got to have that to be able to do it. That's what builds signal. That's what builds surprise. That's what builds the insight, because you've stuck to it, you've drove for it, you know where those things are going to be. Learning, this is the arc you can share all over the place, share with everybody, share with the machine. The better we get across the board, the better everything will get. Let's continue to raise that water and lift all the boats. And then creativity, this is the ability to adapt, try different things, try different models. I this is a weird causal thing, but with the models changing as fast as they are, you have the opportunity to practice creativity all the time. They're changing what they can do. There's new capabilities that if you try something, do it a little bit differently, try a different thing, try it a little bit differently. Give a command in a different way, see what happens. It may be a glorious failure, and you will have learned something. And then you can go back to other different pieces. Don't just find one path and keep going. Remember, we're moving from that world of the single ladder to the not just T shape, but W's and sideways E's and whole letters that have yet to be defined. So some measures. How do you know that this is successful? So I offer a couple of different ones. These are some ideas. Time to first unsupervised call. So a call that matters for new people, new employees. If you have a new set of employees who are coming in and it takes a longer period of time for them to be able to make a consequential call by themselves, all those thought processes, the difficulty of making the decisions, the hard part about making a call, those are latent skills that are not developing at the pace that you want. Develop them on purpose. Unaided defense rate. This is another one where check yourself first. Can you define and describe the things that are in that PowerPoint that you just delivered, that you used AI to go through? Can you defend all the points? Do you know where they are? The first time you do that exercise, it may well be very uncomfortable, but do it. And then do it with your people too. Do it for others and make sure that you really do understand the topic. You're not just a parrot for an AI bot. And then correction latency. So this one is how long before you realize that it's wrong. And then why it was wrong, not just that it was wrong. Like as companies, we've optimized the ability to spot that something's wrong and to measure how long it takes for us to spot that something is wrong quite a bit. The next level is okay, and then how long did it take us to figure that out? This is not just for operations teams anymore. This is a practice that everybody needs. So my hard call on this one is cohorts from before the ChatGPT moment will have a faster time to independent, difficult judgment calls than those who came after. If that's true, then this is the problem, and we need to design to make it better. So where I could be wrong, and where I would encourage you to make sure I'm wrong, and I want to be wrong, is there's places like the MIT Media Lab. There was a paper that snuck out before even pre-reads. It was a pre-read before it was peer reviewed. They've had that a couple times, and they were terrible ones when they happen. I don't know that people like viral things that sound horrible, but the ChatGPT brain rot paper is one of the ones that is along those lines, and not a great paper. Was poorly written. I appreciate why they did it. I appreciate what they were trying to achieve, being able to do it, but it's not the same as a professional development and how expertise develops over a long period of time. We have an opportunity to not do that. Don't turn it over to the AI. Don't let the AI do all of the thinking for you. And the other piece is AI may be a tutor and not a thief, right? So not a thief of knowledge. It can be a teacher. It can bring more knowledge to you, to your workflow, to your employees. Make it do that. Make sure you're designing your work to be able to have the signal land on the human, not on the bot. That's the key. So where in your week, think about it, where in your week do you still take an unaided swing at something hard enough you can be wrong and there's some consequences to it? Right? That's the part that is an uncomfortable line, but that's the part where you have to be thinking about, all right, have I become a child of the Magenta line? And I don't want to become just a child of the Magenta line. I want to be challenged. I want to continue to grow. It's your time, it's your brain. Make sure that you individually do it, and then make sure your organizations follow suit. This image is one that was an oops when I was first generating the very first one that I went through there, but I wanted to share it because I think it's great fun. It's a wonderful example of if you don't check your own work, you can end up with some really great. But now this one's really visually accosting. But that same one that I started this particular episode with was to be able to have small monsters in planes like they have outside of a grocery store that you order. So instead, they made planes of grocery stores. I thought it was a fantastic and beautiful example just created for me to show where some of those issues can go. So again, brain candy, hand flown mostly. Mostly, obviously, I don't hand draw all these monster images. I will go much deeper in the newsletter this week. I wrote the newsletter first, and it was so long. I felt I really had to do a video for anybody who has an attention span shorter than an hour. But it should be a really good read if you take the time to check it out. Give us a thumb, pass on a like, share this with somebody else. Thanks.